Last tires. Okay, let's do one more. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Maria. Are you gonna be with us on Sunday? Lord hasn't worked. He's very jealous of his testimony. Not in a way that like a jealous husband would do wife, but in the sense that you especially set aside on the shelf, like taking a potted plant and putting it on the shelf so you can see. developing our character. Also musicians for music. It's empty though. We like him talking. Should song. Yeah. Hey guys. You just take it up.
Pastor.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, Jarvis, how you doing? So, hey. It was a big picture. I'll look it up. There it is. You're gonna see guys. Oh. You guys can hear it? It's gonna do a sound suggesting.
You?
Test. Natalie, say something. Who's got the lapel? Say something. Got it.
Davey, can I sit with us? Daisy, here.
Sorry.
Two extra hard. Here. Here, I'm sure you. What do you think? What do you guys think? Here. Throw it in, give it a.
Okay. Sharon,
Yes.
would you say the prayer this start?
Yes, we thank you for being with us, like we did last year on Sunday. And ask that you would give us peace and this is what I see.
Amen. So
Bring up to you. Say.
I'm 40 now. Don't have to call me a child. I like the beautiful part.
I've heard you like all the kids because I want.
So we are on the life cycle of civilizations, and so just for the benefit of Kirsty, what we do on Thursdays, it's like our small group, we have a small church. Um, various topics and Bible studies on the Thursday night small groups, and what we're on right now is, actually a college class called Character Development. That we're not doing for like college credit, but, the premise of this small group is to just try to become more like Jesus, 'cause that's what he wants us to do. You know, he didn't come to make bad men behave, he didn't come to make prisoners be good citizens, he came to make dead people live. And, to truly live and to live abundantly, we have to live with his life and not necessarily our. So that's what we're doing, we're developing our character. So civilizations are the largest scale human organizations, go figure. As such, they live the longest and are therefore the least noticed by those who live in them. Everybody know where we are?
No. Page 23.
Page 23, bullet point number 2.
Very well.
The life cycle of civilizations. So, as such, they live the longest and are therefore the least noticed by those who live in them. Yet it makes a world of difference whether you are living in the youthful stage of a civilization or in the dying stage. Historians tell us there have been approximately 22 great civilizations or empires, the average life of which has been 200 years. Even as people have typical stages of life, many historians see common stages in the life of a civilization. So A, they're born. Just as a new baby comes quickly into the world, history is filled with great civilizations that suddenly emerged from a small, seemingly insignificant nation and overran large areas of the world. In fact, all civilizations today spurred from Natalie's new coffee mug that she's going to take to school. It says, I like my tea black and I like my coffee black and my tea in the harbor. Boston Tea Point.
My new cup.
Some typical civilizations were the Macedonians, the Arab, the Mongol, and Spanish empires. The birth of the Macedonian Empire took just 26 years, the Arab 20, the Mongol 45, and Spanish 50. The characteristics of this stage of life are extraordinary energy and courage, fearless and bold action, and views of the pioneers. Somebody read B. Starting with conquests.
Conquests. Oh.
Lynchburg?
The people of the new civilization go out and conquer decadent races by great initiative and enterprise, bravery and hardihood, confidence and optimism. They are explorers, pioneers, and victors.
New civilization of conflict. For example, the Mongol Empire ruled from eastern China to Hungary in Europe.
Affluence, wealth pours into this empire through the e-commerce. And the commercial classes become immensely rich. The population begins to focus on making money. And since materialism easily becomes addictive, the focus of the people shifts from duty and service to self-centeredness, wealth, and ease. These are still some of the ancient virtues of courage, patriotism, and duty, and certainly initiative and seeking for new profits on the frontiers. But in general, self-fulfillment displaces character and virtue. And it really does. I mean, a good character, right? Good virtue. What are some of the virtues you guys have learned in school? For those of you that go to the classical school, if you care to share. or those of you that have taught at classical school, or some of the virtue? Good.
Honestly. Person. Yeah, I'm passion favorite last week.
Did she?
No, it's a mirror. No. It's a mirror. Okay, so why did you get? Did you do something?
That's. Used to forgive you.
This is very true. She is a theme for me and identifying with the needs of others and hearing that. I was thinking. Seems like in these early phases, and I think about, even our civilization, just here in the United States, it starts out where you're looking outwards, and then there at some point becomes this shift where it's everything you do is about me and looking how you're going to be self-fulfilled instead of looking to extend yourself, fulfill a dream or a destiny or serve or whatever. You're not looking outward, but you begin to look inward. It's almost like think of it like a star. It's words and it kind of comes in on itself.
Yeah, I was just commenting that when stars explode close enough to planets, they destroy.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's
but that's a lot of people, even like I was watching this thing on the news about how the banned social media platform called TikTok, and it's can't get it, is she covering her face with it?
No, he was like very interested.
Oh, saying TikTok. But it's like this hole within people that you can't get enough of, you just need more and more attention. I would say attention and it does displace, and it says in this paragraph, the idea of compassion and gratitude and faithfulness and courage and all of those things that are basically fruits of the spirit. And it's all about
Passion, accompanying, identifying with someone's grief or someone's situation. The United States was built on a compassion and a neighboring spirit where you would help your neighbors. You would, if they lost a loved one, there was compassion and sensitivity to that. Passion is coming alongside someone to support them. However, there's a backside to that. The passion by itself will actually turn into narcissism. Passion, the opposite of compassion, is sociopaths. And passion becomes a place where you start identifying. Your neighbor lost a loved one, say. You have compassion for that neighbor to try to support them. But if you take upon them, on yourself, You lose a certain amount of objectivity and you're no longer compassionate.
The neighbor one. It's that person for me. Action.
We help people when they're down with a hand. Even when they need a hand, year after year after year, loses compassion. You create dependence and then eventually slavery. The concept of socialism is built on a warped sense of compassion.
Sometimes firm people in the state that they're in, rather than or being, a tool to live them out of the state they're in. Or responsibilities. Sometimes, people can be in a state where they're feeling sorry for themselves. Coming alongside of them says, yeah, you should feel sorry, but everybody's so mean to you, everybody's so terrible to you. What you're doing is you're confirming where they're at, rather than saying, God has something more for you. You don't have to stay here. Instead of being a tool that God needs to pull them.
Very good. So during this affluence part of a civilization, a preoccupation with defense sets in because a wealthy society wants to retain its life. However, the thinking becomes that military readiness is immoral and primitive, so money is used to buy off enemies. Examples of civilizations at this stage might be Rome under Augustus, or Baghdad under Harun al-Rashid, or the Ottoman Empire under Suleiman the Magnificent. Yeah. And then Britain under Queen Victoria. They might be Queen Victoria. Yeah, and I was eating food. Wow. So all for daughters, all. That's hitting that.
You can build alliances. That's the problem.
I know that. You marry your girls off. Oh, okay.
Bill Gates Jr.
That was what Solomon did, right? That's what they had.
Built alliances.
So some of the defensive moves of civilizations can be seen in the Great Wall of China, Hadrian's Wall on the Scottish border, and the Maginot in France. But I think you know what it was? I have no clue. Please enlighten me.
It was a part of France, it separated France from the other Europe.
Okay.
Okay, heavily defended against the Germans.
Like in relatively modern times or?
Yeah, time fortification. And what we call the wall of China. They set up a line fortification and to defend against the German and Slavic invasion.
Just go around it.
Yeah.
Then it continues and it says, education is no longer for the purpose of training in virtue, character, and patriotism, but to get higher incomes. For example, the Arab moralist Ghazali, he was AD 1058 to 1111, said that students no longer attended college to acquire learning and virtue, but to get the qualification they needed to get rich.
Go on.
Sounds like today. What has changed, huh?
If I'm being honest, the whole college.
As between the recognition of the common and it's becoming.
Well, in that case, that's such.
He is my There he is, hey!
Maybe your side.
She said, if he works in the weekend with overtime, he may make money in a year instead of regular. And she. Exactly what he said. Or it's society. It doesn't work for away. Whatever.
Yeah, the days of the don't. The days of the tea.
We're doing that right now. Third grader, we used to last 30 years and you throw it out because you got tired of looking at it. So work. For 3 years, out there, people 3 years, and they're not. Today, with a strict care person, and you take out the circuit board of the third grade and take it to him so he can work on the circuit boards. So it's like, it's either that or what, most people study the same way. You do it in $25 for free, that's what I do for 55 years.
Bridge ones. That clean with them, but it was older than any bridge I've ever seen. It's the oldest bridge I've ever experienced. Mine and I are actually looking for mechanical for his. Said, you want one of those. The avocado. And this one.
So we're going intellect.
Yes.
Since there is now extra money to the schooling of merchant for schools to control the next generation's thinking and healthy development, also known as socialization. Colleges and universities tend to pop up in every city. For example, Malik Shab, the Seljuk Sultan, say that 10 times fast, who ruled the Arab Empire in the 11th century, built universities in nearly every town where before just a few had sufficed. Intellectuals now have great influence, and intellectuals tend to disdain virtue and character. I wonder why.
The focus. Like, for example, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, were seminaries, they train ministers, servants to go out and preach the gospel and teach them the God. Now look at it. Bring up God, they stone it. Modern day, Notre Dame, a great Catholic university. Some of my favorite authors, they kicked out. Michael Jones and others. That's the Christian perspective, the way they did things. Yeah. Is it wrong to know history? Now you have to worry about when you send your kids. Sure what your kids are being trained in. What are they being taught? Are they being indoctrinated? Or are they being educated?
And the thing is, what exactly education is, you know? It used to be that you went off to school to learn how to think, and this is one of the reasons why we got involved in the classical model, is because we wanted to train our kids how to love learning, how to engage with subjects and learn to learn how to gather information and synthesize it, and come up with, you know, ideas, and that's what universities used to be about. But now you even look at, there's so many online universities, like you're not even engaging with other people and talking about the subject. You are literally just reading, taking tests, jumping through hoops, getting your degree, and that's basically just, it's just your ticket to get an interview into the, you know, it doesn't even qualify for anything other than it gets you that interview where you might get a job. So it's, you know, what we think of as intellectuals is actually the opposite of intellectual. It's more like, you know, a factory where you go from point A to point B to point C, you earn your degree, then you get your interview, get into a job that you might or might not like, but we're not teaching people how to learn. We're not teaching people how to be independent thinkers. We're not giving them the resources that they need to be able to engage with society in any kind of meaningful way. We just are creating this cookie cutter people that can jump through the right hoops so that it makes the people in power feel better about themselves.
I think you said something. Is that. I said that on the group. They're basically teaching them, you know, what's in like this discussion. You said discussion is being like, you know, we have so much technology taking over. You just don't know how to have a discussion, much less if you don't agree. Like, I can't go into it, but you know, watching a discussion about a reactive response that a friend had. And I said, they're learning how to react, but they're not learning how to respond. And sometimes it's over. And I was giving him the example because, you know, me and my kids that want to correspond with them, respond to my phones. And he was responding to a lot of things to help manage their situation because his reactions were so overkill, and help him with his friend work through this and help them both see. And I was like, now imagine if like you had your own phone and a lot of these kids, and you guys don't have a family phone, using your phone. If you had your own phone, I probably would have about that discussion. I just, you know, it would have gone down the road of cyberbullying, which is not the same as you passing your sister in the hallway and saying you're a loser. This is on a public forum and it's gonna, every friend is gonna see it. And it's, but no, this is serious because these kids don't know and even this kid had the boldness to say things that I was helping him think through. That I know that if he were in front of my face, that he would never have said or done. And I had to like help manage that, and I use it as an example of to say, now imagine if you want home, but you guys aren't ready, you could not have handled this. And I know that the only reason I was able to manage it from the context of how it would be received even through a phone is because I know how to have a discussion with a person in person. If you can't have a discussion with a person in person, you have no business talking to someone. And that's how these kids are being trained.
Say that you, the Milgram experiments, basically, people tend to, follow what they're told to do by the written authority. That's what's standing behind them. And, the same populated civilization with a bunch of intellectuals who better, and they themselves are told them they're better, and they, self-affirm, in their own little want, whatever it may be, you just program them to be intellectual.
thought that these platforms and communication with phones, as opposed to wanting to have basic discussion with someone, whether they only know how to react, and they only. That's dangerous.
Society, disagreement is considered like an offensive move. It's like, not that you're offended, but like an attack. Like if I disagree with you, then I'm attacking you. And as believers, that's something that we have to contend with because we're trying to be a light in this world. It's challenging because on the one hand, you don't want to offend people, but on the other hand, you also need to speak the truth. And so, we can't do it based on our own understanding. And that's one of the reasons why we always talk about, you have to be led by the Spirit moment by moment, because there's no competitive response, there's no consistent way you deal with things except for, listening to the Lord. Whether he was dealing with having to go to the lion's den, well, there was so many different scenarios where he had to act in a way that was not anything like the way he acted in a previous situation, but he was really guiding steps and everything. So
One of the things about my concern is that when you express an opinion, someone disagrees with that opinion that has a different viewpoint. If you're one-on-one or you're face-to-face, you have to deal with the society around you. But when you're anonymous, you become who and mean. There's no social background or social borders with social media. To call somebody a bad name on social media and they don't know where it's coming from. There's no accountability. I think you are so and so and so and so, and they text you back and it gets to be a big ruckus. But basically, we rely on our society and social interaction to curb our excesses.
Right.
And that's a hard thing. So the social media, I know, is like telling you there's a big downside to it. Big downside to it. Because anytime you disagree with somebody, you're risking offending them. That's the consequence of free speech. You're risking offending them. However, it depends on this, but society curbs the offense. So I stand corrected by my grandson. That's part of social media. It's one on its own. Listening and all this stuff. So stuff that goes in social media, the world puts on it's not only it's not Because one of the pitfalls in anonymity, besides just the harm that you got even mentioning, because it opens up the door for things that are offers that aren't real, right? You get AI that is on a mission to might see it as like, oh, somebody got offended. But you have no way of knowing if this crowd of responders out there are even real. They could be fake offense, in order to scorn you and train you or socialize you behavior that's desired, right? Right. But also, if you get rid of anonymity, it's in a mirror in front of you at ATM, you know, but on the person that you want to be and see the action you're about to do. A person who's able to see themselves about to do something bad, they likely won't do it. They'll have to stop and reflect on who they think they are and reconcile with what they're about.
That's why there's a real heavy emphasis on showing women considering an abortion their ultrasounds first. It's based with the reality that, what you're about to do.
Also, we don't think about, well, the bottom line is voting maybe, so regardless, despite the difference of opinion, you should always remember voting later, so we. Actually, voting over, it doesn't matter what it depends, even if the vote is mine, but we sort of vote on loving. So, and then he said, forgive said. Viewpoints.
Do you think there's any times where love could have neighbors, a homosexual man married to them?
Well, that's not mine.
Well, I'm not saying that you judge them, but you go and you preach the gospel.
Oh, that could be it, and it can offend them. If it might, right? But you do it in a loving.
Sure. We'll try to do it like that, they said, all about the guidance of the spirit. But, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that, loving God and then loving your neighbor can be offensive to people that want to live in sin. Lifestyle.
Well, Jesus,
I was
five women, but person. She.
I was in that situation often, found that, uh, if it ever became something, so really, I didn't agree with her. Some, got several friends that were male protection that unfortunately thought that she had to be good to him. He treated him like human being. She didn't judge him based on their lifestyle. They didn't try to do their own stuff. You, a couple of them, spit in the face of, you're trying to be human because weird. You didn't pay the rent. That's why you did. And with your lifestyle. You
That's strong in.
Real experience with legal, they are, working for the state, stuff like that, the golden rule is not good enough. And it's for all the reasons you're saying. Often something they call the platinum, which the platinum. So the golden, three other people being treated. Well, that, as we're seeing here, causes the thing, it's like, right, the platinum, treat other people how you think they can be treated. That's good, until you realize, wait a minute, in society, human
Right.
nature, okay? That's very complicated. So, I mean, really, it's that's there, we have down. And that is really we did. But platinum was treating people how you think they need to be treated, even that would be different from how.
That's you and the judging seat is what they think they want.
Yes, it does.
Well, I didn't know.
And let's take in.
Good luck.
Back to like social media and all this, that you were bringing up. You don't have a conversation. And so what ends up happening is we just keep it shut down. People are not friendly anymore. You can't just walk in and say, hi, how are you? People are, it's jarring. If you go in some big cities, like Justin was telling me when he went to New York, how,
I could just make them go.
it was just bizarre, like walking into an elevator, you talk to somebody.
You go back here.
It's considered almost so much because people don't know what to do.
It's not for, but it's not going to, like, I don't think everybody, in a sense, can like take that. There's just some people, some cultures, some civilizations.
Well, my point is that people would rather keep their head down and just stay in their own lane because you don't want to step on a landmine. It's like there's these bouncing betties everywhere that you're ready to bounce them. That you're afraid to step on something because you never know if it's going to explode in your face. So it's easier just to kind of.
Yeah, I don't know.
Terrible. It's now. But yeah, you'd step on it, it would come up and explode like face level. Is that what?
War employee. There's a moratorium on the war employee.
I don't think it's difficult if you talk to the lead on the one hand. Next to the correctly sleeves.
And even, I mean, we all can stuff on there.
So,
Well, I guess something like in this thing, like your dollar talking about, my mind would be, if they want to be Christian, they created that atmosphere, I would have. Whereas most people would that's the issue. I would keep my focus on moving forward because they can't have conviction about something without knowing what's true. So there's that. So in my mind, that's being all things common. In that case, I need that person needs to become a knowledge in the queerness and pronoun scenario. I am, and if they are offended by the pronoun I use, I would try to use the right pronoun for the circumstance at that time, introduce them to the word, and then as they have discussion, then I would bring up like, right here in the word, this is what it says. What are your thoughts on it? I would kind of bring it up and like read it, ask them questions, see what they're saying. Allow the Holy Spirit to have learning to bring that conviction. That's how I'll address it. I wouldn't avoid it, but I wouldn't make that my front line. So that's the balance to me and how we would address. I'm being all things to that person while also not compromising. for- at-
Citizen. So if we run into sin.
And so there comes a point that they're either, when they see that, it's gonna come to a head and it's, you don't have to make it. It's gonna naturally come to a head, so they're gonna see, that. They're either gonna have a conviction, or they're gonna turn away. One or two things are gonna happen. But that wasn't offensive to you, that was offensive to the Lord.
Okay, we're gonna go to F, decadence.
The thing that it's grandparents, I think about is what's happening to this generation, more so than the generation in the sixties. It's the misinformation, disinformation. It was coming over the news media. Not only just social media, but that which is in our face. This political atmosphere that we're in is beyond hostile. It is downright cruel. And, I was listening to a news broadcast the other day, I even have it on my phone, it says, well, according to our poll, Trump is very, very behind, and I thought to myself, I'm sitting here looking at real clear politics out of every poll that's taken in the United States. And you're an outlier. Outlier, that means that you're outside of the standard. So my concern for our kids, and you just read that one. Let's face it, many people say that history is best taught by the conquerors. They're the ones that have to say in history. Now, I have found that to be true as I study different points of history.
Always changed history in them. Conquered in order to, go back to the first where this started, and you think about the Native Americans that this country obliterated, that the American settlers, when they settled the West. Appalachian Mountains, but actually, everything from the Carolina coast to the west coast. They filled in everything they got in the way, where they settled. And then they called the natives and it was their school, teaching their ways, their language, and get rid of their culture. And we've done it every place that they conquered. Every civilization. That's the idea, that's what they want to do. And it's, I fought for what I believe in. There's the fought to freedom. The fighting to, because he's even fought like, the other six, so. All the property and they do.
It's like it. That's got its faults, sort it all out. For decadence, that, like, I feel like we're seeing the curve just in going through this, the birth, conquest, commerce, this is like the good phases, affluence, and then you see the intellect, decadence, death. And I feel like, you know, we only have, like, we could study civilizations in the past, but the civilization we're in now, as we've seen that kind of art, it's very easy to see what direction we're going, and I think you're exactly right. And even with the youth today, when I talk to them, I feel like I knew more politically, maybe it was the household I was raised in, but I feel like I was more aware of patriotism and a love of country and loyalty and these ideals than the youth are today. Because if you ask them questions, you know, what if our nation was attacked? Would you be prepared to defend the country? No, dying for anybody. Dying for this country. You know, it's very much nobody wants to take responsibility for the privileges that they have because other people have them. They just don't even understand that. And again, that goes back to the virtues. We don't teach virtues. We teach every man for himself, protect yourself. It's all about me, me, me. You know, how can I bolster
And, so, if you try and say, sleep hard, you have to go, if somebody,
also that attitude?
there's a lot of thought of, you know, you
You maybe, but there, that's a different, there's thought about all the clear things that everybody did, you know? Others, and that. Yeah, it's a lot of things, well, you're supposed to go to, well, there's a lot of Christianity in history, and so, yeah, so you talk about. I, actually, they are standards, yes, but, you know, because, yeah, we're not allowed to. So it's not. Not that it's not allowed, it's just that you have a society that has gone so far in the direction that you don't have people teaching from their convictions, you have people teaching facts, but you know.
public education, and not everything. And not give a public school education is teach them enough to be productive, to support the,
You support, that was good, what, support feeling?
The ruling class.
ruling class.
Beyond things. So. It is, from what I've witnessed so far, both going and in general, when you're reading it, it is not that. And so that we're getting on towards economics and self-centeredness, you make good money, so it gears, it makes people also vote based on that, as opposed to one, and then
you know, that person, they believe blah, 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 from one perspective, well, because they've been trained, based on, based on the history that I've been reading, you know, I have to look for, and you don't have these discussions, I have to look for history books that and I just go straight to the back, what are the footnotes? If the footnotes are saying this history book, this history book, this history book, you are playing the game of telephone. If you want to get history as it was in letters, you know, something like that. Saying this, when you're reading something historical, think about the perspective it's bending into. It is bending it to an economic perspective. So there is a certain amount of training being done from the lower levels to grow people in a certain way, you know.
First John 5:4, for whatever is born of God overcomes the world. This has overcome the world.
Fortunately, setting is that just to say something doesn't mean that your actions. Good. Yeah, and there should never be any question, no matter where you are, where you stand,
Right.
right? Even if you're everything. You interact with people exactly what your values are.
That was kind of the first, Thursday where it hadn't been a whole lot of Bible. So sorry about that for. Yeah. Scripture depth, but this is, if you read ahead in this syllabus, this is building up to what Jesus had to say about loving your life and living your soul. Like vocal in discussing people. Otherwise, it makes for a very awkward like Thursday night.
Yeah. You see those,
We got this, churches.
all of them.
I know, it's like, hey. You're adorable.
That's so.
If that, at all.
Oh, M's trying. See.